So what was very strange to me was in the minister's media statement, she said that they don't want to put the matrics under further stress by appealing this court ruling. And that was strange because we felt that they already gave the matrics so little time, about 2 weeks, which they had to prepare for these exams. And we are very thankful for the court ruling. And we see matrics across social media celebrating the decision. And we were happy to work together with other applicants as well for the greater good in this matter.
Maybe we should take it back a little, Natasha, and try and find out exactly how the papers were initially linked. Where did this all start? The papers were leaked, and how many pupils actually got their hands on these leaked papers?
So according to the department's interim investigation, which they did, it was only 200 pupils. And Judge Davis actually said that Umalusi's decision that this negligible percentage of pupils who had access to the papers would make their decision not to certify or not to certify the matric certificates in February makes it unfair and irregular because they did not even try to determine whether there were more pupils. Umalusi stated that it could have gone viral, but there was no evidence to support the submission that the leakage had indeed gone viral. It was contained to these pupils. And we know that there was a person arrested by the Hawks who was not in the department. And it's also important to remember that this is a criminal matter. So if you leak these papers, the police have to be involved and they could criminally prosecute these people. Also, the matrics who did cheat will not be allowed to write the exam for 3 to 5 years, the matric exam. So yes, as far as we know, as far as the department has reiterated to us, it's about 200 pupils. But of course, they'll have to conclude their investigation now and finalize that report.
But then what does this say about the credibility of the National Senior Certificate Examination? Is this year's one credible?
Well, we think so, because as the judge also said, it's a negligible amount of pupils who had access to these papers. And if the department's decision had stood, it would have set a very dangerous precedent because, as we know, social media is staying with us. It's not going anywhere. So every time now that a paper is leaked, should all the matrics rewrite it because there's a possibility that it could have been spread on WhatsApp or whichever platform. How would that affect the matrics? Imagine if you have to walk into the examination hall and you don't know if this is the last time you're going to write this paper because maybe someone leaked it and now everyone has to rewrite the exam. It would have set a very dangerous precedent and also had a severe psychological impact on all the matrics who had to write the exams that are still left and in the coming years.
So how does the Education Department then avoid a similar situation happening in the near future? Because it seems as though they were clutching because they were desperate. It was a very rough year. And if we look at what the COVID-19 pandemic is doing to the country right now, it seems as though this is going to roll over into the new year as well. So how does the Education Ministry stop something like this from ever happening, specifically to matric learners?
Well, I think it is very difficult, and there are a lot of people involved in the spreading of these examination papers and handing it out to the students. So the department should have measures in place. They could maybe do a background check on everyone involved in the papers, and they should definitely make an example of the people who transgressed now in order to deter future leakages that happened in this case. Which was detrimental to all the matrics. Now we've seen they've taken this premature decision, told everybody to rewrite, which was luckily set aside by the court. But they should do something to ensure the psychological well-being of the matrics and to act in the best interest of the children.
I'm looking at how the Education Department has obviously accepted what came out of the courtroom on Friday, but saying they are going to challenge a few other small bits about the judgment. Do you know what those bits are, the challenges that will be coming up in the near future?
Now, I'm not sure what they will be challenging, but we're happy that they're not appealing the ruling that their decision was unfair, because the judge not only found that it was substantively irregular, which means the decision itself was irregular, but the manner that it was also procedurally irregular. So the manner in which the decision was taken was also irregular. So we'll see what the department does, and we look forward to seeing the court papers to see how they interpreted the judgments, because they said they're going to study it further and then they decide what their course of action will be.
From what you know, Natasha, you say there's a lot of people involved when a matric exam paper is put together. What is the process from when the paper is put together and then delivered to each school or to each learner for them to write their matric exam? What is that process?
So the papers come from the department, obviously. It's drawn up by the department, and then it should be printed and it's delivered to each school. So there's also the delivery people involved, which will also have to be checked in future, we feel. So to ensure that everything is above board, and obviously the papers are also now electronically available. The people who draw it up will have this available. So obviously, social media will also always be a concern. As we've seen, it was distributed to a certain group of pupils, a certain academic elite group. And yes, this will also have to be checked and considered by the departments in future.
My final question, do you think this COVID-19 pandemic will have an effect on the overall matric pass rate this year?
Well, the matrics have really worked hard. We've seen they have had taken electronic classes, and they've really put everything in, and also the teachers. Obviously, it will have an effect in some communities where these resources weren't available, but we have the full faith in the matrics and the teachers that they worked hard throughout the year and that the results will display this.
All right, that was AfriForum's advisor on education rights, Natasha Venter.